Greetings and welcome to another edition of Political Empire. I'm your host, Kim Pearsall with the Press Enterprise and PE.com. And we're going to talk a little bit about the recently formed Ontario International Airport Authority and its two new members. And we're also going to talk to Jim Miller in Sacramento, who's going to tell us a little bit about all of the last-minute action that happened last week. So first, the authority adds Riverside. The recently formed Ontario International Airport Authority, which was formed by the City of Ontario and San Bernardino County, has chosen Ron Loveridge to be a representative from Western Riverside County. Ron Loveridge is, of course, the longtime mayor of Riverside, who will end his reign as Riverside mayor very shortly after this election, and he will still remain on the authority's board afterwards as a member of the Western Riverside County area, so kind of a prominent business/community member. Also joining the 5-member board is the leader of the Orange County Business Council, who told me in an interview for a story I wrote that, of course, John Wayne Airport, which is in Orange County, is her first choice, Ontario Airport is her second choice, and she doesn't want to drive to LA. So now we're going to talk to Jim Miller a little bit about all of the last-minute activity that was going on in Sacramento last week. Jim, how's it going today?
Okay, Kim.
Fantastic. So we spoke last week right before all of the last-minute activity was occurring, and so of course things happened on Thursday and on Friday, and apparently into late into the evening on Friday, into Saturday morning. And at least one of the bills impacted the Inland Empire area quite a bit. 4 cities that lost their funding are now going to get funding. Is that right?
Right. What happened was in June of last year, a budget was approved that as a way to continue funding for local law enforcement grants, the budget redirected some revenue from vehicle license fees that previously had gone to cities, of which there are more than 400 in the state, and so all cities took a little bit of a haircut in that. But the shift landed particularly hard on the state's newest cities, all 4 of which are in Riverside County. And in the case of Hoopa Valley, it had a very serious impact, and there was talk that the city, in fact, would have to disincorporate because of the lost VLF revenue. And so since then, there have been some legislative efforts to try to restore that funding, and those have been going on for months, and in the course of about 6 hours, late Friday, early Saturday, a bill shot through to restore that money.
Nice. So with this last-minute bill, outlook looks good for these new cities in Riverside County. Also, what kind of steamed through at the very last minute was the pension reform measure that Governor Jerry Brown was proposing. Talk to us a little bit about that, because that did pass, and how does that impact us locally?
Right. And this, maybe it did. This legislation did emerge earlier in the week, but unlike some of these bills that were voted on Friday, it actually was in print for a couple of days because it was what is known as a conference report. It actually had to be in print for a couple of days, and so people maybe had a chance to read it, which is sometimes not always the case. But the way it's going to work out locally, I think a lot of local governments are still trying to decipher the finer points, but right now what we know is that all employees hired after January 1st are going to have less generous retirement benefits, and current employees by January 1st, 2018 will have to contribute 1/2 of their pension cost. So for local governments, and for local public employees, the impact could be quite significant going forward.
And finally, we talked a little bit about this last week, and I joked that the outgoing members who are termed out would get cake and ice cream or something like that, usually get in an office when you leave. But it sounded like there were quite a few send-offs for some of the inland representatives, Paul Cook being one of them. Tell us a little bit about what those send-offs were like and some of the people who got them.
Yeah, there is huge turnover this year in the Assembly, particularly the Assembly and also the Senate. Just term limits, and then people running for Congress, and these new lines of people running for Senate. So there were a lot of what are known as tributes in the last several days of session, where people get up and briefly, most times, say nice things about their colleagues. In the case of Paul Cook, he took office in 2006. He is one of just a few military veterans in the legislature, and I am almost positive, is the only Vietnam veteran. He also has a lot of friends on both sides of the aisle. He had Tom Amiano, who was just maybe among the most liberal members from San Francisco, got up and said things, nice words about Suleiman Cook, and then you had lawmakers who were more conservative, much more conservative, such as Martin Garrett from San Diego County, got up and compared to some of the other tributes that took place. The comments about Suleiman Cook went on for quite a while, and he seemed to be touched.
Nice. And Cook is, of course, running for Congress, recently received the endorsement of longtime Republican Congressman Jerry Lewis. So it'll be interesting to see how that race goes. Well, Jim, thanks so much for joining us today. Any final thoughts on the end of the session?
Now the focus turns to campaigns.
It hasn't already been focused there?
Hang on to the seat. Hang on to your seat.
Nice. Well, Jim, thanks so much again for joining us and for keeping us updated on everything that's happening in Sacramento. And thank you for watching yet another edition of Political Empire. We'll see you on Monday.